Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, there is ongoing fallout over the fiery speech from Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, against the United States. During his most recent tirade in Tehran, the incendiary leader denounced the 2015 nuclear deal as a lethal poison for his nation and declared that Washington cannot be trusted. Khamenei claimed that repeated concessions made by his nation have been met by American bullying, violations, and disloyalty. The Obama administration ignored warnings from Israel and numerous U.S. officials and signed the agreement last year, which lifted billions of dollars of sanctions in exchange for very little on the part of the hardline Islamic Republic. Critics argued that the sweetheart deal did not prevent Iran from moving forward with its nuclear program. In his diatribe, Khamenei blamed America for Tehran's failure to forge economic relations with other countries, and he declared that negotiations with Washington have ended. In other angry messages posted on social media, Khamenei also took aim at the Jewish state, which Iran has repeatedly threatened to wipe off the map. The top Muslim cleric condemned the recent apparent strengthening of ties between Jerusalem and Riyadh as an attack on the entire Islamic community. Both Israel and Saudi Arabia share concerns over the significant threats that Iran poses to neighboring states in the region.
In another symbol of the close ties between the United States and Israel, Commandos from Israel's elite ground, air, and naval forces just concluded a joint military exercise in the Negev Desert with the U.S. Marine Corps. The drill, codenamed Noble Shirley, was geared at helping to train American forces to combat Islamist terror groups. Israeli commanders reportedly demonstrated IDF counter-terrorism techniques, including warfare scenarios involving terror tunnels, extractions under fire, and simulated helicopter landings in enemy territory. Israeli commandos from the elite naval unit Shayetet 13 trained alongside the U.S. Marine Corps' Battalion Landing Team, the 6th Marine Regiment, and the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit. Israel also hosted the Juniper Cobra drill earlier this year, during which time over 1,700 American service members, civilians, and contractors took part.
The leader of Israel's Druze population in the Golan Heights has dismissed United Nations allegations that the Jewish state has imposed hardship on his community. In fact, Dulan Abu Saleh, the mayor of Majdal Shams, the largest Druze town in the area, called the recent statements from the UN Economic and Social Council a total joke and laughable. The mayor said he really does not understand what kind of hardship the UN was talking about, and he insisted that residents of the Golan have a good life. He then challenged the international body to leave his community alone and instead focus on the horrors in Syria, where dozens of children are killed daily. Abu Saleh also insisted that his community has always found an attentive ear in the Israeli government. Only about 2% of Israel's population is made up of Druze citizens, who number approximately 140,000. Unlike most other minorities, notably the Muslim Arab population, Israeli Druze proudly serve in the Israel Defense Forces. Just this past week, a Druze doctor, Badr Tarif, was promoted to Brigadier General and appointed IDF Chief Medical Officer, which is the most senior medical position in the military. Other prominent Druze include Colonel Hassan Elian, who commands the Golani Infantry Brigade, and former IDF Lieutenant Colonel Majali Wahabi, who went on to become a politician after leaving the Army, and became Israel's first Druze acting head of state in February of 2007, while both the president and interim president were abroad.
In diplomatic developments, Jerusalem is welcoming the warming of ties with Cairo and thanking Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for his efforts to promote peace. Egypt's ambassador to Israel hosted Israeli President Reuven Rivlin and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for celebration of his country's National Day at the first event to be held at his residence in many years. Netanyahu told those gathered that Israel is appreciative for Sisi's work to incorporate other Arab states in his larger effort to reach a broader peace among all the people of the Middle East. Egypt was the first of the Arab states to recognize Israel in a U.S.-sponsored peace accord in 1979. While Egyptians' attitudes toward their neighbors have largely remained icy, recently cooperation between the two governments has strengthened due to mutual security threats. Egypt is combating Islamist insurgents in the Sinai near its border with Israel to the east, while both nations are highly concerned about the Islamist Hamas rulers of Gaza and their ongoing attempts to dig underground infiltration networks into their territory for terrorist and smuggling purposes.
Land that once belonged to the Jewish people in Gaza is now being given away to Hamas civil servants whose salaries the terror group says it is unable to pay. So far, plots of the once thriving fertile land owned by Jewish families just 11 years ago have been dispersed to around 40,000 workers who remain loyal to the militant Islamist organization. In 2005, Palestinians smashed greenhouses and other structures in the Jewish villages, which were forcibly evacuated as part of Israel's unilateral disengagement from Gaza. 2 years later, Hamas seized power in a bloody Palestinian civil war against the Fatah faction of PA leader Mahmoud Abbas. Some 70,000 civil servants in Gaza then walked off the job out of allegiance to Abbas. They still to this day continue to draw monthly salaries from the Palestinian Authority. Payment of these funds comes out of the hard-earned tax dollars of the American public, which the PA receives from Washington each year. Abbas is protesting the land giveaway, claiming that the former Jewish property is now owned by the Palestinian government. Meanwhile, even though Hamas claims it lacks the money to pay its workers, it has managed to find the cash to run terrorist summer camps aimed at indoctrinating the children of Gaza. A top-level United Nations delegation recently participated in a highly unusual and complex tour of the Jewish state. Danny Danon, Israel's ambassador to the UN, invited 12 diplomatic representatives from a wide spectrum of nations, ranging from Thailand and Tanzania to Security Council member Uruguay. They were presented with facts focusing on the reality of life in Israel, as opposed to the often biased viewpoint they've been exposed to in the past. In addition to visiting holy sites in Jerusalem, the group of ambassadors met with residents of Kibbutz Nahal Oz to see what life is like on the volatile border with Gaza. They also spoke to Syrian patients being treated at the Ziv Medical Center in Tzfat after fleeing to the Jewish state in search of medical care for injuries they suffered in the civil war raging back in their homeland. Other highlights included a special security briefing along the border with Lebanon, a flyover of the Jewish state, and an inspection of a water purifying plant in Ashkelon. Ambassador Danon said he very much hopes his guest will return home with a deeper understanding of the security challenges facing Israel, and that they will be able to influence the policymakers of their nations with a more honest viewpoint. Danon said it is important to remember that many countries in the world look to Israel as an inspiration and wish to learn from our success.
Turning now to Poland, where Pope Francis visited the Auschwitz death camp this past week to pay his respects to the 1.5 million, mostly Jewish people who were murdered at the site by Nazi occupiers during the Second World War. The pontiff spent several minutes speaking quietly and exchanging gifts with 12 survivors of the camp, including a 101-year-old woman. The leader of the Catholic Church made no statement as he walked through the killing grounds, having announced before the pilgrimage that he believed that silent prayer was the most appropriate means to give tribute to those who died there. In the Auschwitz commemorative book, the 79-year-old Argentine-born pontiff wrote a message in Spanish, calling on the Lord to have mercy on his people and forgiveness for so much cruelty. Francis also visited Birkenau, which was a part of the complex where most of the victims were killed in gas chambers. He listened silently as Poland's chief rabbi Michael Shudrich, and a priest recited the 130th Psalm just a few yards away from the infamous rail track where cattle cars delivered Jewish prisoners to the death camp. During a visit to Rome's synagogue in January, Pope Francis appealed to Catholics to reject anti-Semitism, saying that the Holocaust, in which some 6 million Jews were killed, should remind everyone that human rights should be defended with maximum vigilance by all.
Summertime and the living is easy, or so it would seem. The Reuters news agency is reporting that many Gaza residents are enjoying the summer at sparkling Mediterranean beaches, restaurants, and state-of-the-art health clubs, despite claims of economic hardship in the Hamas-controlled territory. Reuters filmed families trying to beat the heat by splashing at the seashore, where they held barbecues under festive tents. Other folks are shelling out monthly membership fees to a growing number of gyms and health clubs across the terrorist enclave. One bodybuilding coach told reporters that he's had a steady increase in customers since the 2014 war between Israel and Hamas. Hussam Hamada proudly pointed out that 4 new sports clubs have opened this year alone. And then there are those in the pampered public who prefer to enjoy traditional Middle East steam baths and massages at a Turkish bathhouse in Gaza City that's believed to be more than 1,000 years old. Where to stay is not a problem either, as several brightly illuminated beachfront hotels and restaurants along the coastal road cater to middle and upper class residents.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. Biblical prophecy is unfolding right before your very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still waiting to come home. Violent anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before our window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren Hayesod UIA, the official fundraising arm of the Jewish state. Together, we can help fulfill the prophecies of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, visit our website kh-uia.org.il.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here in a beautiful sunny day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. My guest today is Guy Ehrlich. He's the founder of the Balm of Gilead farm. Guy, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Guy, tell our viewers a little about what is the Balm of Gilead.
The Balm of Gilead is an initiative that aims to bring back the legendary Balm of Gilead to the shores of the Dead Sea and to revive the industries that was once driven from it, medical and cosmetics.
Now, where have you heard about the Balm of Gilead? Where is that coming from?
First, I heard about the Balm of Gilead in a visit at the nature reserve of Einot Sukim. I heard about an incredible plant that was once grown at the shores of the Dead Sea. This plant was the source of one of the most important medicines of the ancient world and of the best perfume in the Roman Empire. The plant was so important it served as the first ingredient of the incense of the temple, and since the second temple it was the anointing oil for the kings of Israel. So I heard about a tree that once exists here at the shores of Israel. By the way, the ancient Hebrew farmer was the only one in the world who grew this plant. And at the 6th century, together with the exile of the Jewish people from their land, also this Balm of Gilead plant exiled from the land of Israel.
So this plant goes back to the time of the Bible and was actually used in the sacrifices at the temple. How important was incense and this plant during the time of King Solomon's temple?
It was very important during the first temple and during the second temple. As I said, it was the first ingredient of the temple. I can tell you that after a few years of activity, I developed a big collection of biblical plants, and I decided to expand the borders of my initiation. And nowadays, my vision is to create or to establish a research and development center for medical plants at the north of the Dead Sea.
You also have come up with other plants that have been pretty much extinct since the time of the Bible and have regrown them here in the land of Israel. One of them is frankincense. What was that used for in biblical times?
Yeah, it is the Boswellia sacra. This is the same frankincense of the Holy Temple. It used, except of the temple, as a medicine. It used as a part of the incense of the Holy Temple. It was a very important plant, and only after 3 years of activity with this plant, I found out that without aiming, or someone else aimed for me, I'm in a very interesting place, because this tree, the Boswellia sacra tree, don't grow agriculturally anywhere. It only grows wild in different countries at the Horn of Africa. And due to the high demand for its resin, there is over-extinction of the tree, and the tree is under dangers of extinction.
It's amazing that you're able to find strains that were around in the time of the Bible and then regrow them in an agricultural park. Why aren't other people doing this?
It's a good question. I believe that other people would follow me, but I think that the first people to do things at the beginning have to have some kind of bravery, or to do something new. But I do believe that there is first of all, a very big importance for these plants, and then later on also a very good or very big potential for their medical properties.
It's interesting you bring up the medical applications. Do you believe that people will figure out eventually that there are medical applications to these plants that are not known till today?
Yeah, I know that thousands of people that use plants as medicine for thousands of years create what we call the traditional medicine, or traditional medicine in the world. We all know about the Indian traditional medicine, the Ayurveda, about different cults of Chinese traditional medicines, traditional medicines that came from Europe, herbalism, aromatherapy. There is also a Jewish traditional medicine. From this aspect, the Balm of Gilead was the biggest contribution of Judaism to the traditional medication. And
I understand that you make soaps, perfumes, medical devices or treatments. You invite people to come and see the farms. Why do you think people would want to be involved with this initiative?
I think there is something very exciting in this initiation. It's to bring something from the past, to revive ancient smells from the past, to revive history, to revive a culture that disappeared from the land of Israel. And nowadays we have the pleasure and the honor to take part in this historical move, to bring back the Balm of Gilead to the shores of the Dead Sea. There is something very exciting about the whole idea of bringing things from the Bible. It is a visit to the Bible.
Guy, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
I can tell you that during the 8 years, it's 8 years that I'm involved with this venture, we did a lot. And nowadays we have more than 10,000 plants of Balm of Gilead and other plants of Boswellia sacra, the frankincense, and other plants. In the last 3 years, we added the support of a big American company, and unfortunately, about a month ago, something like this, we were announced that they decided to retire from the project. Unfortunately, one of the reasons for the retirement was their fear from the BDS movement. We are looking for support. At this stage, we are in a very complicated situation. We have a lot of plants, we have a plantation, but the major source of support that we had just left us. So we are looking for support, and we do want people to come and visit us.
Thank you, Guy, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning into Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
President Abbas, since over the past several years you refused to meet with me and sit down and negotiate peace, I hope you'll hear this message. First, your advisor, Sultan Abu Enan, recently called to slit the throat of every Israeli. 3 days later, a Palestinian terrorist turned these words into action when he slit the throat of a 13-year-old beautiful girl, Halel Yafa Ariel, as she slept. She was a little innocent girl. She didn't deserve this. I ask that you fire this advisor because advocating genocide is not consistent with peace. Second, your party recently praised a terrorist on Facebook who murdered 24 civilians, innocent Israelis, in cold blood. I ask that you pick up the phone and instruct your party's social media manager to stop praising mass murderers. Impressionable children read these posts. They should be taught harmony, not hate. Such words seriously harm the chances of peace. Third, next week the Palestinian Authority will dedicate a monument to Abu Sukkar. Abu Sukkar murdered 15 people by detonating a refrigerator filled with explosives on a busy Jerusalem street. Rather than dedicate a statue to a mass murderer, I ask that you consider honoring a champion of coexistence. This will help educate future generations to love peace over war, compassion over violence. It will also help convince Israelis that they have a true partner for peace. Fourth, the PLO currently pays a monthly salary to anyone who murders Jews. This money provides direct incentive to commit terror. I ask that you stop paying murderers and instead use this money to found coexistence education. Teach tolerance, not terror. Every Israeli and Palestinian child deserves a life of hope, of tranquility, and opportunity. I will continue to work tirelessly for peace. It's time that you join this effort.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
כל יום היה פחד על החיים. כל יום חשבו, הנה זה יום אחרון שחיים. לולי הייתה מדינה, אולי אנחנו לא היינו עוברים את השואה היהודית. שמי חווה הרשקוביץ', אני נולדתי בשנת 1933 ברומניה. בשנים הראשונות חיינו חיים רגילים. אסור היה לי ללכת לבית הספר, יהודים לא התקבלו לבית הספר. הציקו לאנשים, לא היה חיים קלים כבר גם אז, אבל כך היה עד שנת 41. בוקר אחד אמרו, עוד כמה שעות להיות בתחנת הרכבת, נוסעים לעבודה ל3 ימים. לא היה מים, לא היה אוכל, לא היה שירותים, צעקות, דוחק, בקושי היה אוויר. בגבול הורידו אותנו והצעידו אותנו 40 קילומטר ברגל לתוך אוקראינה. כל האזור היה מחנה אחד גדול. אנשים סבלו מאוד, אסור היה לצאת, מחלות מאוד קשות היו. אותה שנה היה קור נוראי שם. וככה מתו המון אנשים. בשנת 43 שוחררו ילדים מטרנסניסטריה שהיו יתומים. ואני הייתי בין אלה ששוחררתי, ובאותה שנה עלינו ארצה. הזמנים אז היו מאוד קשים בארץ. והתחילו להילחם לקראת הקמת המדינה. השתחררתי מהצבא ומאז עבדתי. עבדתי בחברת חריש, קראו לה, שהיא הייתה חברה לעבודות עפר, ובנו את המוביל הארצי, את המים לנגב. אני הרגשתי מאוד גאווה שאני עובדת בזה. לפני 8 שנים נפטר בעלי. ואני החלטתי שבבית אני לא נשארת לבד. ובאתי לגור לבית חם לניצולי שואה. אני מרגישה שדואגים לי, אני מרגישה שחשוב שיהיה לנו טוב פה. יוצאים לטיולים, כמו שביקרנו אצל נשיא המדינה, אצל ראש הממשלה. אלה הזדמנויות שלא היה לי בתור בן אדם פרטי. וחשוב שיהיה לאנשים מה לעשות. למשל, כל יום רביעי בערב אנחנו רוקדים. אתם מוזמנים לראות אנשים מבוגרים, זקנים, כולם רוקדים. זה נותן משהו מאוד מאוד לנפש שלנו. לא להיות לבד, להיות לבד היינו הרבה. היד עזר לחבר מאוד מאוד תומכת. השגרירות הנוצרית, אנחנו מאוד אוהבים אתכם, ואנחנו מרגישים שאתם עושים לנו איכות חיים מאוד מאוד טובה. בעיקר שיבואו כמה שיותר, שיכירו אותנו ושיספרו בעולם מי אנחנו, ואנחנו גם מספרים בעולם מי אתם שעוזרים לנו.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan Elrom.
And I'm Erin Viner reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.